Turf Talk with Drew Miller.
On this week's episode, we have a great guest in store. We have Mr. Corey Levine, the field manager at the University of North Florida. This is an awesome episode where we dive into college athletics and everything that's going on down in Florida, especially when it comes to sort of introducing yourself to a new space. Corey is in his second year there, working on developing his own routine, his own facilities, making adjustments based on what he has learned and knows what needs to get done. And we really dive into what he's been doing to improve the facility, whether that's cultural practices, renovations, things like that. It is just awesome to be able to talk about all the different things he has going on, and just to really learn about what it takes to be a sports field manager in the state of Florida. There are so many different variables when we talk about the different locales here in the United States, and being able to learn about how insane the amount of rain that they get down in Florida compared to, say, maybe a Colorado who has an insane amount of snow, and just to see the different practices and different ways of sort of combating those challenges and facing them head on. It truly was an awesome episode, and it was incredible getting to talk to Corey. You definitely don't want to miss out on this one, so I hope you enjoyed this episode of Tiger Turf Talk. Welcome back to the 96th episode of Tiger Turf Talk. I'm your host, Drew Miller, with your co-host, Liz Rice, and our new producer, Dakota Garber, who's behind the camera right now. We are with the athletic field superintendent at the University of North Florida, Mr. Corey Levine. How are you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing great, Drew. Thanks for having me on.
No, thank you for making this place look phenomenal. I mean, you went above and beyond for us, so I can't thank you enough for that. We got it on the table, the Jaguars and everything. The helmet, I freaked out a little bit. I was like, whoa, okay, I didn't expect that much, but thank you so much for that, and we really appreciate it.
Of course, man. That's the least I could do.
So with everything, you've had a pretty crazy journey, working in a bunch of different places leading up to this. Again, incredible work that you've been doing at North Florida. Just watching the transformation over the past couple of years of, again, a field that drainage wise is not the best, but you make it work and it's getting better each year. What has your journey been like through the turf industry, and how did you get to this point at North Florida?
Yeah, so I kind of took a different route, than most people. I didn't go to school for sports turf whatsoever, but worked in the parks and rec sector here in North Florida for about 10 years. Dealing with youth and adult sports, and coming with that, you tend to learn a lot about your facilities that you're using, that are usually either owned by the city or what have you. And wanting to make those the best for your participants, you start taking on a lot of those tasks of mowing the grass or trying to get grass to grow and painting lines, and starting with nothing, and just trying to build that experience for your participants. So I did that for, COVID hit in 2020, and decided not to return there, and made a kind of a 180 career change, and went and worked for the Jacksonville Jaguars turf staff, and absolutely fell in love with it there. Went through a few different changes after that. We went to run a soccer complex that was almost 20 acres with 20 fields. So got to, dabble in that a little bit, and ended up over here at the University of North Florida here just a couple of years post-COVID, going into year 2 now of being here, and loved every second of it so far.
Now, with everything there, what's your facility made up of? I know soccer is a big part, baseball, probably softball. Is there anything else that you're managing? And like we were just talking about, the field superintendent, but also everything in between and beyond,
Yeah. So we have a lot of varsity sports programs here, men's and women's soccer. So we have 2 soccer programs, unlike some of the other colleges that may just have women's soccer. Beach volleyball. We have a beach volleyball complex here that was recently constructed. Softball, baseball, men's and women's tennis, swimming, as well as a big track and field program. We just installed a bind and track around our main soccer stadium, which is one of the nicest surfaces in the country. Not being biased with that at all. Just installed a new artificial turf practice field and track right adjacent to it, we do a lot of track and field meets. We host the NCAA East Regional every other year, a lot of AAU nationals. So some big track meets. Learned a lot about that my first year here, as well as 7 acres of intramural fields on split between 2 sites on campus as well, that me and my crew take care of. So a lot going on here all the time, and it always keeps me on my toes for sure.
Absolutely. What has it been like for you sort of putting your own stamp on the facilities itself, sort of making it like maybe the Levine way type of deal with everything? I mean, there are so many things going on, and Florida is an animal in itself when it comes to weather and rain, and God bless you for that, because I am not dealing with that much rain when it comes to managing a field. How's it been sort of putting your own touch on the facility and getting sort of over that hump to where it is your facility now?
Yeah, a lot of that is when I first started here. A big thing that I wanted to do is make sure that I had a good relationship with my coaches, and players. That's your end user. And sometimes in Division I athletics, you don't necessarily get that with larger scale Power Five type places. But being here, I have a good relationship with all of our coaches. They respect what we do. They take care of their facility, I think, better now that they have a good understanding of what goes into it. We try to, the first year I was here, over the last 12 months, I kind of, let a lot of processes and stuff stay in place that were already kind of in motion that coaches that have been here a long time were used to. But now it's really that time, over the course of this summer, our cultural practices, everything like that changed going into that. So doing things a little bit differently, using a little bit different equipment and frequency of things got a little more intense over my last couple months here with some stuff like that. But to be honest, it's not too much. But I hope that people do see the difference of of my fields versus anything else. So that's always what we strive for.
Absolutely. With everything that you have going on, what are some of those more intense practices that you've been working on? I'm sure thatch buildup and everything when it comes to the Bermuda field. Obviously, I don't know who was there before. Obviously, I'm not trying to slander anybody's name or anything, but like it holds water well, which obviously there is an exuberant amount of water. But what are some of those cultural practices that are a little bit more extreme that you've been trying to use to benefit you in sort of the long run of leading into the season now? You're probably quarter of the way through, right?
Yeah, we haven't played enough games to make it feel like that yet because of the weather here. But our soccer stadium, our Hodges Stadium, is a USGA spec sand based field, so I do expect it to drain well. We've just been having issues with outfall and ponds and things of that nature to not allow us to release as much water. I'm actually watching them from the top of our press box here now. We're pumping out water from retention pond to retention pond, trying to help eliminate some of that. We received 10 inches of rain just in the last week alone. So it is a constant.
Nope.
It is a constant battle. Our afternoon thunderstorms last week clocked in 4 or 5 inches of rain on a given day. So a little bit more.
Normal
Yeah,
Tuesday, right?
a little bit more than what y'all are probably dealing with over there.
I think maybe we've had 4 inches this summer. I'm gonna be honest with you, like all together. Now, the last couple of weeks, there's been more, but over the summer, we had a pretty decent drought there that was not the best. But sorry to interrupt.
No, it's all good. But just as far as culturally, this summer, I kind of came in July of 21 full time, kind of in everything was not in a great shape for me to want to be as aggressive as I wanted to on some of these surfaces. So trying to figure out what the cultural plan was that was being done while in the interim between me taking over and that time lapse. But then just trying to grow in. So working with the folks over with laser turf, we did have to replace 10,000 square feet with ready to play thick cut sod from Precision Turf when I first got here. So that was a little project right off the bat, the first couple weeks here. But now, after growing in last year, this summer we were really aggressive with our verticutting. We only mow, collecting clippings with baskets and things like that. As far as aerification as well, we did 2 core aerifications during the summer, and right now just trying to move some water in the profile of the soil, we have an Air2G2 machine that's being lent to us. So we have been lucky enough to have that toy to try to help us get these games in during this rainy season.
How is that Air2G2 done for you? What is it? What have you seen sort of change? I mean, the technology of just sort of like fracking your soil is kind of a crazy idea that they may come true. So what has that sort of been like for you? What benefits have you seen from it?
It's definitely a good tool to have, if your facility can arrange to get one. We do have some areas on some fields that do retain more water than others, and that's just the nature of older fields. We do see a good difference in it actually helping move water through that profile in the top layer or two. We also, implemented the use of some wetting agents to try to penetrate water through that upper layer of the field, as well. But with the Air2G2, it's really fun when you're out there for a couple hours using it, and then you get another 4 inches of rain. So it's that it's a give and take with the industry, but we have seen success using it, and like I said, if you can have one and use it and have time to go out there and do it, I've seen good results from it.
It's also, you're able to do it right during the rain, right? If it was raining out.
If you would like to, you can. Yes.
You don't, but if someone wants to be stupid and do it, then be our guest. Yes.
Go right ahead. That's right.
So you brought it up a little bit before we started. It's sort of beyond anything when it comes to just the field. What are some of those different facility things that you sort of had to focus on and been able to sort of combat in sort of maybe like your labor working, like, okay, we have this to get done and this is just part of your scheduled day, like get this done so we don't have to deal with it later on. Or is there anything else when it comes to the facility?
Yeah, I mean, so we're a mid-major Division I university, so staffing isn't huge here with us, especially on the facility side of things. So as of right now, full time, we have one full-time facilities coordinator, and then myself, and then we have graduate assistants that help us. So we are responsible for a lot more than just the field itself, or I'll say I am responsible for more than the field itself. I was here last night till 11 p.m. We were getting LED lights in all of our facilities right now. And the easiest time to work on certain areas of fields is at night when classes are over on campus. So we were here putting softball lights in and finishing that up last night until about 11 o'clock. Everything around the fields themselves, common areas, we are responsible for that as well. Field drainage projects, scoreboards, video boards, any game day operational type stuff. It's me and one other guy right now. So we do we do have a lot on our plates. He has his stuff, and then obviously my priority is the playing surfaces. But then there is everything around it also. We built soccer goals this summer, which is never a fun project, but it does kind of put the cherry on top when the field looks good. Yeah. And you have a new set of quick goal soccer goals out there and that type of thing. So we have a lot going on. We do a lot of external events. We had the Jaguar players here this summer while their practice fields are being built right now. Some of the quarterbacks and wide receivers came out. So we painted an NFL, an NFL field on our soccer stadium field for them to do training on. We normally will host the Tax Slayer Bowl practices as well for the SEC team. So there's always something going on that we'll have our hands in.
Don't you wish they had a way to help you guys, after you sort of rent your field out to a professional team that has like a lot of money, sometimes you wish people would notice that,
Yeah, I have the phone numbers of some people that can do it. We just need to
we need the
rip it out.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Right.
What has been your relationship with the athletic department? Obviously at a collegiate level, I was, again, working when I was in school, meeting some of those people that, again, are the athletic directors over maybe soccer. And then there's the marketing teams and all the different groups that you have to work with to, again, make a facility work for these, again, collegiate level events. What has it been like sort of developing those relationships with those teams to, again, make a coherent, well-run athletic program?
Yeah, so being in facilities, we are the go-to for almost anything that happens. But I think being here over the first year and them seeing the pride that I take in the playing surfaces, almost anything that's going to happen out here now will come through either me and my deputy athletic director, who is my boss, and he'll normally deflect for it to come to me about any type of external uses of rentals or alumni games or inter squad, anything like that, which we appreciate a lot more. And if you're asked first, you're normally more inclined to say yes, just as long as it's within means to do so.
You know, like for forgiveness, I tend to do that.
Exactly. And like I said, going back to, the relationship with the coaches, we did just install an AstroTurf synthetic practice field, which also doubles as a recreational intramural field in the evenings. In our climate too, that field does get pretty hot in the summertime, like right now. So those soccer coaches at practice, whoever's got that 11 to 1 time slot will ask to come use the game field. And, as long as we're not doing anything and we're within reason, we're fine with that. But just not doing keeper training inside the 6-yard box for 2 hours,
What's wrong with that? Like what's going to happen?
yeah, yeah, that's the third gray hair from being this last week. But
we're not going to talk about gray hairs going at all. Third gray hair, thousands.
But yeah, I think some guests of yours have talked about before too. Just having that open line of communication with every coach and anybody you can, I think is the best way to go. And some people may not agree with that. But I'm 100% would rather them send me a text message than for them to go run around on a field that we just sprayed a post-emergent herbicide on. So just things of that nature.
Those are the best. They're like, wait, I can't be on here? Not if you want to like lose a leg, never.
Yeah, or we just sprayed, Roundup around the warning track. Well, what do you mean we can't use the field? You just sprayed the warning track. Well, you're going to walk through that to get to the field. So there's just,
all these dead spots on the field. I wonder.
Explain it to me like I'm 6. So that's kind of my viewpoint on that.
Absolutely. With everything that you have going on, has there been something that you've enjoyed a little bit more than the rest? Obviously when it comes to a sports field manager, a lot of people don't talk about this, but your field is your baby. Everything that you're doing is making sure that they're okay, ready to go at the highest level for, again, your athletes to stay safe. But at the same time, we love putting our aesthetic little touch on it, make it look nice and everything. What's been sort of the your favorite part about your job?
So I've fallen in love with baseball. So that was one thing that coming over here, I didn't have a whole lot of upper level experience with, and was a little nerve wracking. But obviously with this industry and being able to talk to so many people, we have an Amanda Durer edge infield. So learning that, was, I'm still learning that, and I'll tell everybody that. I mean, you're still learning
I think
it.
That's a never-ending cycle, right?
Yeah, I mean, and there's so much to it. But with baseball, you can kind of always put your touch on the field. We had almost 40 games this season just on baseball alone, and whether it be a mowing pattern, being able to choose what kind of conditioner we're using on different areas to dress it up, stuff like that. Baseball and just the way the guys treat myself and my staff. As far as with respect to the surface as well, whether it be pitchers, either texting me or finding me to say, hey, can we throw bullpens on this bullpen today? Can we help you fix it after? Just little things like that, and especially the coaching staffs too. That stuff has been really enjoyable so far being here.
It's definitely something you want to hear. It's something that's unique about our program is we have a lot of those athletes in our classes. So like they take great pride in what they're doing, and always wanting what's best, not just for their teams, but for them themselves,
Exactly. And we have a lot of kids that are JUCO transfers kind of at our level here, or, came from good high school programs. So they're kind of used to doing a lot of stuff, even at the high school level, kind of like your kids do now. And when you do it on a baseball field, you do take a little more appreciation for it as a user of the field.
Absolutely, especially when it comes to like mounds. When you have pitchers who have pitched on those mounds that are like, ooh, like this is not something that we really want
Hmm.
to be pitching off of, and then they come in and you're probably using like a Dura, it's black stick or something for your mound. Like, oh, this is how it's supposed to be. Okay,
Yeah.
and then
And
being
this is why we'll fix it for you after.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. I think someone else, I think Cody at Stanford, their coach makes them take care of the mound, which is
Mhm.
great and all. But again, you as the groundskeeper want to make sure it's perfect, even with all that, So,
For
uh,
sure.
uh, now I have a funny question, and you can tell me we're not going to talk about this because we have one, and he's annoying as hell. The robot paint machine. So my explanation, so ours is called Squints, and it's the tiny mobile robot, right? Uh,
Hmm.
my explanation for him being a pain in the ass is always if I had to measure everything and string it out, we would still take more time to do that than the waiting 30 minutes for him to actually work. Um, you had a fun experience with the turf tank.
Yeah, I did.
What,
So
what was that like for you, sort of making sort of that decision to start again a company while you're working? Again, a great idea. There are so many people that need it, and all our athletic directors, our middle schools are calling us about it right now. But what was that sort of venture like for you, and how was that experience in the end? Oh,
yeah, so
sorry. Go ahead.
I won't go too deep in the weeds of that, but the whole idea, we started a company called RoboStripe, and it was basically just, and it was before I came here, but it was more to help local athletic directors, coaches, or whoever just put a field down fast. And I would just see from being in Parks and Rec for so long that, like, let's say a field got rained out and had to move, you can't just do that. There's very rarely a synthetic field you're going to move to that's already lined. But if you're going to a different field, that's a whole new layout, which could take you guys know 3, 4, 5 hours to do. Um, when I was with our soccer club, I had that, my personal one, and we had a game field that got rained out. And I said, give me 30 minutes. We plugged the turf tank in and popped an 11-a-side soccer field down in like 30, 40 minutes. And we saved a team from going all the way back to Georgia, and we got the game in.
That's all.
So, that's kind of where the idea came from. We ended up having a lot of technical issues when it came to the football side of things. Football is not a real big sport on the other side of the world when it came to building the programming for it. I've learned a lot about it over the year or so of not having it. There's a lot of cool technology that they are implementing. I had the guys from Turf Tank out here actually a couple weeks ago. The Florida State Seminoles were here doing a training camp. So it's kind of a good opportunity for them to bring the robot out, show me the upgrades to it to help us kind of get that football field lined at the same time. And it worked flawlessly in that situation. So going forward with it, I have huge aspirations that eventually those things, like all things, will get the kinks worked out of them. And we may possibly get one here just to help with our intramural linings and external events, but just with the labor shortages we've had. But to start, no, I didn't have a great experience with it. But the idea itself, I think, is it's getting there. I just think we're a
It's
few years
definitely
ahead.
a great idea for sure. Like I said, ours he has a mind of its own and he decides when he wants to work. I don't know how to fix it honestly, but in due time he works. So um
So you said that you were in Parks and Rec. Would you ever want to go back, or are you?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like everything, there's a love and hate relationship with it. So, we had 20 acres of Bermuda grass out there and very little money to spend to maintain it. But we did do a lot of things to kind of to get them to where I thought that they were some of the best in that county at the time. So if the right opportunity presented itself, I wouldn't, I never turn anything down to listen to it. But I do like the aspect being at the college level with collegiate athletes and a collegiate budget to work with. We do have our games on ESPN, so getting to see your work and even my family members that aren't around this area can't always come by and see the plays, but they'll just turn on ESPN Plus. We
yeah,
host some pretty big teams like Florida Gators and the Seminoles and things like that. So I think that aspect of it is cool. So I never tell anybody to shy away from Parks and Rec because you do meet a lot of really cool people, and usually a lot of those people have been there a really long time, and have a lot of cool advice to give you.
Was it hard at all transitioning from Parks and Recs to the collegiate level? Like, was there anything drastically different that you had to like get used to again?
I think just level of expectations and managing those as well. Obviously, uh, going to ask for things. My boss always tells me when I walk into his office, how much money do I need now? Because you are,
Hey, you do
you are a
so
department
much, you should be able to ask for things,
yeah. So we do spend money, and to get the surfaces to where you want them, that is a requirement, unfortunately. But challenge wise, I think just it was more pressure on me as a person. I had more expectations of myself, to get these surfaces to where I thought that they were Division 1 quality, aesthetically and safety wise. So they were playing safe, and nobody had any complaints. But going back to it, that open line of communication, I tell coaches, I said, I can't be on every field every second of the day. If they see something, just say something and let me know. And then that way, it can be as simple as, a strength coach came up to me earlier this week and he said, hey, there's water coming out of the ground at the beach volleyball complex. And, they ended up breaking their hose spigot off that they washed their feet off with.
Just leave it.
Yeah.
Just water whenever you need.
That could have been running for 3 days if somebody doesn't say something. So there's, I like it here. I like the collegiate experience. That we'll see where we go from here next.
I was gonna say again, you with the Jaguars, it's obviously an awesome time being able to paint the fields and see everything that's going on at the national level when it comes to football. Any aspirations beyond what you're doing right now?
Yeah, of course, everybody's goal is to always end up in professional sports. But seeing that side of things and seeing, it's sometimes the lack of control and sometimes it's the opposite. But kind of like what our guys in Houston were dealing with, the ridicule and stuff, and nobody understands the situation of what's actually going on. It's really hard to bite your teeth sometimes and not say anything. Or what's going on in Chicago right now with
let's dive into Chicago. Jeez.
I think a phenomenal idea and the best case scenario for the situation that they're dealing with right now. Everybody was complaining about how it looked and everything a few weeks ago. A brand new surface goes in and they're still complaining. So it's I think eventually I'll get there, but I am happy where I am right now.
And it's funny. I love how you bring up again having when you talk about a field, when you cover it for 48 hours the day before a game, like you can't expect it to come out looking beautiful and perfect. But again, those guys did so much work to ensure that it was safe to play on. It wasn't something that, again, was going to hurt a player. But then you bring in this brand new surface that everyone's working with, that again, with everything that we do, it's the premier surface. And everyone knows better than us, and everyone knows better than Chad Price and Chris Ecton and those guys. And it's like, what are we talking about?
And that's sometimes where the platforms, like I'm big on Twitter and being able to use that to our advantage sometimes. But it's hard, like I said, to bite your teeth sometimes when people who don't do this for a living and don't have the knowledge or don't even do a Google search before just bashing what they're doing. It's hard to see sometimes. And I think that's why organizations like the SFMA and even our local chapters are doing a better job of kind of articulating the message of what we actually do and why we do it.
Yeah, especially, in Chicago, the fact that no one's like having faith in what, and they're like, we've had a terrible surface for years. Like, no, we really didn't. But at the same time, like, look at Green Bay and they're your arch rival. I literally almost commented on one of the one guy. He was really, really rude about everything. He's like, this isn't going to root within 6 days, whatever. I almost commented like, why can Green Bay do it and not you?
Yeah, and they just don't understand what
the arch rival in the football arena, just give them that little gut punch, be like, hey, why don't you trust what's happening is going to be good for your field, So
Yeah, and they don't understand how, the fields are grown on plastic too. I mean, there's some stadiums that they may never root. I mean, what the Jags are going through this year, they don't have a practice facility, and they're literally doing what they did up at UNC Chapel Hill a couple
yeah.
years ago. They have 13 fields at the farm right now ready to go in. There's one going in this Sunday, a week prior to the game, and it's going to happen all season long. But a lot of that stuff, I know a lot of sports reporters in our area, they don't even know that. They just think, oh, the Jags are practicing in the stadium. I wonder what it's going to look like on Sunday.
And I think that's the biggest like misnomer of what our industry is that we're kind of hidden, and not in like a way that's like, oh, you're never going to see the groundskeeper, in a way that we, like you've said, you get the job done, it's ready to go. And they just come in the day of the game, they see the field, it's perfect, and they're like, oh, great, let's play. There's no, okay, they're practicing here every single day. You got 450-pound men working in the same spot for an hour and a half in a smaller space than what they're used to when it comes to their practice facility. And you just expect the grass to be fine, and most sports field managers can deal with that and can get through it. But again, being at the NFL level, they're expecting it to be a higher pedigree than, say, a Parks and Rec or collegiate. So with all of that, and I'll go back to Chicago because Chris Exton's a good friend of mine, and I feel bad for him because he's been working on this project for a long time. He's been excited about it, and I think Tahoma is going to play great up there until December. When you talk about when you think about it, like it's no longer actually actively growing. They can put in the bluegrass field for the playoff push that they're never going to have. So I'll take shots at them if they take shots at us.
So if you were to go pro, do you have like an opinion on what team you want to go work for or where?
I don't think the team matters. I think climate matters to me more. I haven't had the
Yeah.
great opportunity to go experience the northern climates, but from what I see all over the internet, I don't want to. I'll take the rain and 200% humidity, I think, over the snow.
I don't know about the
but
humidity, but yeah.
But growing Bermuda grass, it is a challenge. I mean, I'm looking out, I can see every blade of grass from where I'm sitting up in this press box. And we are facing challenges when you get through so much water. You start getting a lot of disease and things of that nature. And then, just trying to catch up on mowing. When you're trying to mow fine turf grass at a height like that, it presents a lot of challenges with the weather we have. But I don't think so much the team going, talking about professional teams, but baseball has piqued my interest. But like everything, it comes with its challenges, with its schedule and how many games they play. Even minor league baseball, we have the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp right down the road from us here, and I see the grind that Christian and Chris put in and day out to try to keep that place in immaculate condition. It's tough. It is tough.
It's also hard at the budget they probably have, so it's like you said,
Yeah.
it is a grind and you have to love it for sure. So that's what Liz is piqued by baseball. She's very interested in baseball. So she's sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it's got, we have softball here too. So, I mean, I don't have a major crew like some, University of Florida, they have Todd down there that manages baseball. They've got softball, so, on game days, I think my first weekend here, both, we had 9 softball games and a 3-game home series for baseball. So, when we talk about, spring, I don't want to get PTSD thinking back to last spring, but we were here a lot. And especially when you had games that started at very similar times between doubleheaders. Your mind is kind of all over the place. I think we had one day where we did have, I think, 5 softball games and a doubleheader for baseball, and you're trying to figure out like, how am I going to get from here to here? I think we had like 9:05 we water, 9:15 we water over here, and then we prep this. You almost have to write it out so we're all on the same page. But at the end of the day, we get it done, and we try to put out the best product we can for these kids here.
And there's no greater feeling than finishing that last little turn of the lights off and head home. So
at 1:00 in the morning.
It could be earlier, but but I mean with everything, it is a passion, and you got to love what you're doing. Where is your passion rooted in it? I mean, obviously you had different opportunities that you were talking about where you found sort of that love for turf management. What has it really been for you to again keep working till those 1 a.m. mornings, you know?
Yeah, I think it's just a love for sport in general. I grew up playing sports, grew up playing, baseball, basketball, and things like that. But then after learning about this industry, just finding, obviously I found my passion in it. Even when I was in the Parks and Rec side, I'd much rather be on a mower than trying to respond to upset youth sports parents because their kid didn't play enough in a game. So I did enjoy that side of it more. And I think the challenge and then seeing the end result too. So we went through a transition. We subcontract out some of our services here, but I went through a transition earlier this year, and we transitioned pretty rough out of the overseed. And but everybody's worried, and he said, just please trust me. We're going to get through this, because that was how our soccer stadium kind of got damaged pretty bad before I took over, where we had to spend quite a bit of money on some thick cut sod. But we got it in. It came in probably the best that, even the soccer coaches have said they've seen it in a long time. And when you see it and it's ready for that first home game, you got your pattern burned in, your lines are nice and bright. I think being able to come up even where I'm sitting now at the top of the press box and see that, it's just that sense of accomplishment too. And then they tear it up and then you fix it and
do it all
do
over
it again.
right? That's what it's
Yeah.
all about, bringing
Yeah.
back what was and maintaining it. So definitely.
Yeah, and I think that, and then just trying to keep them away from going entirely plastic surfaces. That's I know that's your pet peeve.
We can get into that. I mean, if you want to. And again, I've gotten a lot more respect for professionals like Brian Bajorn and Nick Pappas. Like, there are times where it's going to have to happen, but once again, I'll use this example. FIFA's coming in 2026, and Mercedes-Benz is one of those places, and there is no way to actually get light in there other than artificially. So when you look at it face value, yes, it's still an incredible venue and everything, but the standard FIFA has set, having to have those natural grass playing surfaces, you're at a real disadvantage when it comes to things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure they'll have 5 fields ready for that, just prepping and having it ready to go in and out. And I'm just curious if they have a hallway to get it in,
Yeah, I mean,
So,
but yeah, I mean, I just seeing the importance of it. I also work just very part time for the NFL, so I get to go to the Jags international game every year. But we got to play at Top Hotspur Stadium
right?
last year. So Nick Fidowa, he's our assistant sports field manager for the Jaguars. He goes over every year to assist with that endeavor, and he actually was able to give me the tour of the stadium itself and kind of see the amount of work and money that was spent to be able to keep that pitch tucked away for 14 days while the NFL played on the synthetic, and the amount of care that was going into it while it was tucked away. It was absolutely mind-blowing. And that just kind of just shows the importance that over there they put on the grass itself.
So that's where my mind sort of wanders when it comes to stuff like this, is like, why is it that obvious, and again, don't get me wrong, NFL is great, MLB is great, but when we talk about top of the line programs / ownership / league like coverage, soccer is far above and beyond anything that we could ever try to accomplish. Like, Real Madrid is an international thing. Everyone knows who Real Madrid is. They put out so much, again, internationally speaking. The NFL is the American sport. Like, there's not many football teams across the country outside of Canada, maybe. And again, they have made that decision to understand the significance that the field plays on their investment. And I've said this 1,000 times because I think it makes a lot of sense. But Travis Hogan is the first line of defense for your $500 million investment in Patrick Mahomes, because half of his injuries is turf toe. And if you have an artificial turf field that he plays on, it's going to cause issues with that, And the fact that they can, have you seen, it's Real Madrid, actually, their new mock-up, the tray
Yeah,
system.
I did, and I believe I can't remember the gentleman's name that was on. I believe he was on your
Paul.
show.
Yeah, Paul.
Yeah, I did listen to that one, and after hearing that, Google was the first website I visited to see a picture of that, and that's absolutely unbelievable. I mean,
So the fact that a team's willing to put that money in for, I mean, I don't even know how deep it's got to be, like the hole is, like why is it that we can't make that investment? Because everybody thinks that the investment can be avoided with these artificial turf fields, Um,
to an extent, yeah. I mean, they're right, but I believe Nick just replaced his field in Atlanta, and that was after 2 years,
and
right?
that's my biggest pet peeve. Like when you said that's my pet peeve, I have a problem that an NFL team understands that it only lasts 2 years for however many games are actually played on it, which again is astronomically less than say a high school or a Parks and Rec artificial field that gets pushed to 15 years because people don't want to pay for it. But it's really,
yeah.
and it's probably way less than that. So yeah, 2 years is a short time.
It's a very short time, and that's also concerning as well. And but these facilities that are being built to. I just saw Danny's turnaround up in Carolina. Yeah, what they just did in like the last weekend was incredible. I mean, going from event to event, and that's where ownership groups like the Teppers or whoever have you are trying to get their bang for their buck for those stadiums, and that's the only justification they have for that turf field, and it's unfortunate. But I think there's solutions around that with future buildings, like tray systems and things like that.
We have the solutions already in country, when you talk about Vegas and Arizona, Andy, like those guys have it perfectly made. And Vegas did an even better job to put that artificial underneath the trays. Like, okay.
Yeah, especially sharing a stadium with, I believe it's UNLV, so they can come in and play on the synthetic. I mean, that's that's not their investment. Their investment's in the Raiders and those players. So if a college wants to come in and rent or lease a facility, I think that is smart. Would it be nice for them both to be able to play on grass? Of course.
They probably could invest in it like more if wanted to. So, but
that's a whole different conversation about funding. But yeah, I mean,
we won't poke that bear. Right?
we did do a synthetic turf, AstroTurf practice field here, and it was a lot. It was our soccer team's main training facility, but it's also the intramural complex. And there's no way that we, with lacrosse and club rugby, that we could keep up with it. The two worst sports for any natural grass field, in my opinion.
Yes.
So
maybe
for that purpose. Yeah,
we have field hockey for the first time yesterday, and they were swinging their sticks, and my heart was like, oh, "Don't do it, don't do it," But
luckily, that is not a popular sport down here. We do not deal with field hockey. But with everything that field is going to go through, being as warm up area for track meets, being a club rugby and lacrosse game field. I mean, that was the perfect solution for us. They can go out there and beat it to death. So
be our guest.
I'm not saying, but again, that doesn't come without issues in itself. I had a seam rip earlier this week. So with AstroTurf, they're actually glued together. So you have to, clean it out, glue it back. And so I'm not saying that it's maintenance free by any means, but it will take a beating for sure.
And that's the other part that a lot of high schools, and not, again, obviously, you know what you're doing and at a high level, and I know you're awesome at what you do. But high schools don't understand the maintenance side of things. Like I brought it up during COVID. I brought it to the county. I said, "Are we disinfecting the fields?" And they're like, "What are you talking about?" I said, "It's plastic and you're disinfecting every single surface in the school building, and the kids aren't allowed to take their masks off outside. And you have a field that people are being tackled on and breathing on / getting germs everywhere. So why are we not disinfecting the fields?" They're like, "We'll look into that." Nothing was done. So again, like there are so many levels to the maintenance side of things, moving the infill, understanding that, hey, maybe you shouldn't be putting all of your lacrosse practice on just the goal mouth because you need to add rubber every game if that's how it's going to go. They don't pay attention to the fact that it isn't maintenance free and it's not something that will last unless you maintain it. So, and they think they just throw the drag on and do it once a week. And it's there's so many things to it that I don't even understand, which we're actually getting a practice field too. We were lucky enough to avoid our game field getting destroyed. But again, when it comes to equity across the county, we had to have one. So it's going on our practice field as well. But there are so many things that we don't understand. And talking to Ryan and Nick about all of the things that they go through and the conversions, and then talking to Danny about removing the paint, putting new paint in. Like, there are so many things we don't understand about artificial. And it's even further from that when it comes to the high school athletic directors who are like, finally, I don't have to cut the field anymore, So
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I had to, it's a campus recreation shared facility with us. So I'm the liaison basically between athletics and campus recreation. We're the ones maintaining it, which also will, impact use or, anything like that. So we had, we invested in, with Pioneer Athletics, a new Graco paint machine. Had to learn about game line removable paint. As well as the blitz chemical to remove the paint, and then a scrubber to scrub the paint off, and then just learning some tricks to get the paint to wash away. So that was my first experience dealing with that. We painted for rugby. The lines on our field are for, I believe it's club rugby, and union rugby is a different set of lines. It's all in meters and it's all very confusing to me. But
freaking rugby.
They were. I didn't understand any of the terminology they were using when they were asking me about different lines. I would just point to the picture and we would paint it.
Yes, definitely.
So,
right.
So we do have the lines down, and I'll be interested. We're going to scrub them here in the next week or two to take them off. So talk to Nick and some of the guys about how they've done it, and we'll see how it goes. That's
best of luck with that, right?
That's right.
So I actually finally got to meet you down in Savannah at SFMA, which was awesome. It was great to see everybody in person finally after all that time. What has it meant to you to be a part of the Sports Field Management Association, and how's that had an impact on your career up until this point?
I mean, I think it's one of the best organizations that I've been a part of throughout my careers so far. Just networking and talking with people that you would have never thought would be as open to talking with you, no matter what level you're working at. I mean, you have some of the best industry professionals on your show, but then also talking to your students as well, which is something that is almost unheard of, really, in any other industry. I wish that I could go back and then go to Bartram Trail High School as a high school student down the street from me with Josh and his program and take it. I mean, if I would have seen that in high school, I probably wouldn't have worked anywhere else straight out of high school. So just getting involved in that. We're trying to relaunch now the North Florida chapter of the SFMA. I've got a graphic designer that already did a logo for us, trying to get the social medias back up and get our guys out here meeting again. It's kind of we don't have a lot out in North Florida, but we stretch all the way to Tallahassee, down to almost Orlando. So getting to Chris is actually at FSU. Chris Denson is the president of North Florida, and then I'll be the vice president once we get up and rolling.
That's awesome.
But I really want to try to push the Parks and Rec high school side of things up here, just with education and resources. I mean, there's so many resources that either get wasted at the professional level and the collegiate level with projects that we do with either extra equipment, leftover materials, stuff that we just would throw away that I would rather repurpose at a high school. Or I'm not sure with compliance if we're supposed to say that we're giving it to a high school. It just ends up there somehow.
Nudge surplused out.
It somehow ended up at your field or what have you.
What is
so just the Jags are taking out 13 fields this year, and by the time they take it out, it may be still the nicest field in Jacksonville, right? And they just throw them away. No matter, they don't. Some people send them to the farm or whatever have you, but I think these will be thrown away at the landfill. Imagine if you could have had a high school field already prepped and ready, and had them playing at a local school, and knowing that they're going to get a new field put in, and if we could try to donate some labor to make that happen, or even them, foot the bill of labor and us giving them free grass.
I love
Um,
that.
just little things like that. I mean, if I was at that level, I would have died for, if I was getting rid of an air fryer,
Field, right?
or whatever, I would have loved for that. I was a beggar then. I would always be asking, people for things. There was one year at a Parks and Rec field I was at that the Jags actually, I think, gave me half a pallet of ryegrass seed to overseed. Just stuff like that where you can give back, I think is huge too.
Absolutely. And it's so we did it in Pittsburgh. We didn't give it away. We had training camp was at St. Vincent College in Latrobe, which one of the fields was taken over by POA, and we were like, oh man, this is not pretty. So Chris was like, we're gonna move our game field before the concert season to Latrobe and have it set up so that we have a brand new field out there. We'll do the 3 concerts and then we'll put the new field in Hines. Sorry. Acrisure, whatever it is. But like you said, something like that, if we could set something up where it isn't too much, because I think a lot of the things that happen is like it's like, oh, we got to get the field in before the next game. Like we can't just roll it up and move it out, that'll take an extra few hours that we can't lose. So but I think that's awesome, and it's definitely something that we should do as an industry better.
Yeah, even that, on the training and education side too. I partnered with the guys over with the St. Johns County, which is right down the road from us. Their Parks and Rec group is huge, and there are a lot of really passionate guys that just really haven't had that on upper level training, which may not always translate back to their local little league field, but they can try their damn best to get it as close as possible. I'm not saying that we're a Taj Mahal here by any means, but we're at least a grade over a Parks and Rec, 90-foot field. So what we did was I told them, I said, if you guys want to send a crew of your staff over, I'll give my crew the night off and you'll come work as my game day guys and we'll show you the ropes. And they absolutely loved it. They came in around 2 o'clock for, I think it was a 6 or 7 o'clock game. That was their whole day of work that day. Came work with me and put them on the hose, put them on the painter, let them prep for a Division I baseball game. I think it was against maybe Boston College or UConn was here, and they loved it and they learned a lot. We did everything from prepping the field to patching and cleaning up afterwards, and just them seeing the way that we do it, hoping they would take some stuff back with them to their parks.
That is incredible, and that's what we need in this industry. And I know you've been a big advocate, and a lot of other people are trying to do more. Obviously, with the North SFMA, well, that'll be huge. And like you said, there's a lot of untapped sort of markets that, as an industry, we should be honing in on. Parks and Rec, athletic directors, I think, is one of the biggest unknowns that, like, I know you don't think this, guys, but you're field managers. Like you're doing all this work to get the fields ready. It might not be at the highest level, might not be the best level, but you guys are field managers, and you could benefit a lot from being a part of this organization, whether that's education, having someone to talk to, network, all these things. So I want to thank you for all that you're doing down there, because it sounds like you guys are heading in the right direction, which is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So we wrap up the show with these 2 questions, and obviously with your career and the path that you've taken, it's so unique. If there was something that you wish you knew heading into your career in sports field or sports turf, whatever it is, it doesn't have to make anything easier, better, or whatnot. But if there was one thing that you wish you knew, what would that one thing be and why?
So I think if it was before I got into it, I wish I would have, for one, known about the industry itself. and known how passionate the individuals are in the industry. Like I said, that probably would have led me to not work anywhere else at the beginning of all this. But I think that's, I mean, for me, I think that's the biggest piece is I can call anyone at any time and any time of day. It could be my equipment dealer, or it could be, that worked in Major League Baseball, or, Nick with the Jags. If I have a question or concern, and they're going to answer. If they don't, they're going to get back with me, and they'll kind of talk it through, or talk me off a ledge, or whatnot. And I think that's the biggest piece for me.
Right. So, what would your best words of advice be to me as a student?
So as a student, if you're looking, to advance your career in sports turf, is to one, not be afraid to make mistakes, and two, you're gonna kill some grass. I mean, we all
I love it.
we all have done it. But that's the challenge, and that's the fun part. I mean, obviously here it's a little bit different. If I have like a little burn spot, I'm paranoid. But in a Parks and Rec, you have 20 acres, a little burn isn't gonna, nobody may not even see that. But just don't be afraid to make mistakes. Try things. People push me to try to, do things differently all the time. Investing in technology that can help you do your job. But I think the biggest thing would be just don't be afraid to make mistakes.
Well, I want to thank you again for helping out, making the studio a special place. It's awesome to have all the little touches from, again, you. So we really appreciate that. I hope you're having a good year. I hope the summer is treating you well, coming to the end. Maybe things will slow down a little bit with keeping up with mowing. You can ask these two today. We're baling some hay. Just a little bit.
Yeah,
it might have been a lot.
Might
have been a lot.
We're there right now. And we're trying to squeeze the Primo app in as we speak. So it's just fighting it, and that's the fun part of it.
Well, again, I want to thank you so much for taking the time. It's always great talking to you. Looking forward to seeing you in Utah.
You too, Drew. Appreciate you. Thank you, guys.